I'm Travis with Bakcou, and I'm going to be showing you how to build the all-new Grizzly, Bakcou's dual suspension fat tire electric scooter with a 1000-watt rear hub Bafang motor. Now, first what we're going to do is going to take it out of the box and go over everything that's in the box. All the tools that you will need are in the box already. There's two ways that you can get the scooter out. What I like to do is just open it up, and I like to pull it out. Another way that you can do is you can use a box cutter razor and cut along this box and then flap it open like this. And then you can just pull the scooter out, and you can even work on this box itself to build the scooter. I've already pulled mine out, and so it's behind this box right here. Now when you take your Grizzly out of the box, it's going to be covered in some foam and bubble wrap for protection. Just go ahead and take all of that off, pause the video, and get to this point where all of it's off and you're ready to build your scooter. Okay, now that you've taken everything out of the box and you've taken all the zip ties, foam, and bubble wrap off, what we're going to do is go over everything that's inside the box. First is the scooter frame with the rear tire attached and the front tire detached. The fender for the front tire is going to be zip tied to the front tire, so make sure you take that off. The battery is going to already be in the down tube of the scooter, so you don't need to worry about that. And then you're going to see this box that has your charging cable and your charger, your owner's manual, this toolkit, which contains a bunch of tools that you're going to need to build it. First one is this screwdriver. It's interchangeable from a Phillips to a flathead. We're going to be using the Phillips. You have two wrenches in here, a 15 by 13 wrench and a 10 by 8. And then you're going to have 4 hex keys, 6, 5, 4, and 3 millimeters. The last thing that you're going to notice in your box is the display. It's going to be in a little box like this, and we'll go over how to put this on your handlebars. Step 1 is connecting the handlebars. First, you're going to want to grab your 4mm hex key and remove these 4 bolts and take off this front-facing plate. While you're doing this, make sure you don't lose the washers that are on the bolts. I'm going to put my bolts over here on my workbench and put my hex key down. You're going to want to get your handlebars and flip them so you can read the words Bakcou facing towards you. And these lines here, these are the middle of the handlebars. So you want those to go in the middle of the plate. You can see them through the hole in the plate. Once you have that centered, you can grab your bolts and put them back in. I like to hand tighten them at first, just so I can get a couple in before I start really tightening them. A good rule of thumb is having the word Bakcou straight out in front of you, but we can adjust them as soon as we put the tires on and everything and you stand on it. The next step is we're going to put on the display. You want the plus and minus symbol to be facing outward on the bike. You're going to grab your 3mm hex key and loosen this bolt right here. Once that's loose, take it out and open up this clamp. Put it around your handlebar, and you're going to have to use a little bit of force, but clamp that on, and then use the bolt and the 3mm hex key to lock it into place. Now that we have the display bolt tightened down, you can take these 2 green plugs and plug them in. There's arrows on them to make sure that you line them up properly. Now your display is on, and you can now take this off. This is just a little cap that covers the horn button, because that will always work whether your display is on or not. The next step is to put your front tire on. The first thing we're going to do is grab this light, and you can either hang it up in these cables here or unplug it. pretty tight plug. And then keep this plug out of the way. Remove this crossbar in the fork. Grab your tire's fender, put it to the side so we're ready to put that on after. And then get your tire. Remove these safety pieces on the side. And you're going to want to remove these bolts on the axle. This axle is where the fork is going to rest. So take these off and remove the washers as well. The washers that come on the axle is one here with this lip and then just another washer. Each side has two, remember that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hold the tire in between our legs. I found that this is the best way to do it, honestly. And then you bring the scooter to the tire. Thread the brake rotor through the brake pads, and then place the fork over the axle just like this on both sides. Now that that's done, one thing I like to do actually, before we even bolt it on, is to put the kickstand down just to make it a little bit easier while you're putting these bolts on. So what you want is to put the washer with the lip first. It goes into a little groove of the fork, and then just put the round washer. And then you can screw this nut cap back on. Just get it hand tight for now. And then repeat on the other side. The washer with the lip first, and then the normal washer, and then the cap. Screw that on hand tight. And the tool that we need to tighten these all the way is our 15mm wrench. Just give it a few good tightens like that. Just make sure that's snug on there. These tires are CST BFT 26 by 4 inches. With these tires, the ground clearance that you're going to get on this scooter is 11 inches. It's going to be able to cover any ground that has rocks, twigs, sticks. One thing I like to do after I've put the tires on is roll the scooter back and forth and listen for any rubbing down in the brake rotor and the brake pads. Squeeze your brakes, make sure they work. And again, remember, when we're completely done, we can adjust these handlebars and even adjust the placement and rotation of these brakes. So the next step is putting the fender on and the light. So grab your light if you took it off. Make sure you have it here with your fender. And first, we're going to want to screw off this bolt. There's 2 washers on this bolt. Make sure you don't lose them. Take it off completely. Place it to the side. These fender stabilizing brackets go on the back side, and this mount here goes behind the crossbar of your fork. The light's going to go on front. So what we're going to do is put it here, and just what I like to do is just leave it. Grab your light. This flat piece here, this is going to go right there in front of the fender mount. Grab that bolt that we took out, and instead of placing it through the way that it came out, we're actually going to go in backwards now. And that makes it so we can tighten the light. Place the bolt through the mounting bracket, through the hole. And then once that's done, you can place the light there. Grab your nut from the bolt and start to screw it on. Just get it hand tight for now. So now we have the 5mm hex key, and you can hold the light in place and we're gonna tighten this fender on. Make sure the light is straight. And if the fender's not straight right now, that's okay. We're gonna straighten it out when we do the stabilizers. And now we can plug the light back in. Same thing as the display. There's little arrows on these cables that you can line up so these cables can go in properly. Now your light is attached. Now to connect these stabilizing brackets, what we're gonna do is this piece here that's on your fork, we are going to unscrew here with the Phillips screwdriver that comes in your toolkit. Make sure you don't lose this washer when you take the screw off. And then you can place that screw to the side. What I like to do is use the same Phillips screwdriver and adjust this piece where the bracket connects. Make sure it's above the brake rotor so there won't be any rubbing while you're riding. And then tighten down with the Phillips screwdriver. That screw that you took off, grab that, put it through the stabilizer bracket into where you took that screw out, and then you can screw it back in place. And now repeat on the other side. Now that you know the height of where this bracket should be, because of the other side with the brake rotor, you can match it by loosening this piece with the Phillips and then tightening it back up. That's tight on there. Adjust the fender as needed if you need to. Loosen the bolt up top. Now your fender and headlight are on. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to use this key to lock the battery in place or to take it out if you need to. If your key comes out, the battery will not come out with this removing lever. What you have to do is put your key back in, twist it, you're going to hear a little bit of a clunk, and then you can move this lever here and your battery will come out. It's a little tight with the fender, but here it is. This is your 21 amp hour, 48 volt battery. Again, a little tight with the fender, but we can get it in. When you're putting it in, make sure you give it a good nudge. Make sure it's tight. Lock your key, take it out. Now the battery will not come out or fall out. Okay, so now that your Grizzly is built, what we're gonna do is adjust the handlebars to make sure they're at a good angle for the height of the rider. Now for me, standing on it, if I stood on it like this, the handlebars are pretty low. So what we're gonna do is we're going to be taking this piece out. It's two actual pieces in here with a bolt and a spring. So grab your 5mm hex and you're gonna wanna loosen this bolt on this side. You don't wanna loosen it all the way. Reason being is applying a little bit of pressure to this, you'll be able to pop this piece out because it is a pressure mount inside, so it's a little tricky. I use a hammer. You could use a rubber mallet if you want to. I'm just lightly gonna tap it though. And then I'm gonna cut my hand over here to make sure it doesn't fall to the ground. Now this piece is out. You can totally remove the bolt. And when you do that, make sure you don't lose the washer that's on that bolt. And I just dropped the spring. Right there though, don't drop the spring. Make sure you keep that there. Now, this is the left side. There's one similar that looks like this on the right side. That's the one that we have to remove in order to adjust the rotation of these handlebars. So what you can do is you can take your Allen key or your hex key and give it just a little bit of pressure. It may take a minute, because it is stuck in there pretty good. It's doing its job. I got it. when you're putting the hex key in there, you're gonna feel this lip. That's what you want to be pushing on. And now that that's out, you can rotate your handlebars. I'm pretty tall, 6'4", and so I'm gonna rotate mine all the way up to the 40-degree angle. There's a little chart here on the side that has angles. Now that I've done that, I'm gonna put this piece back in. And again, it is pressure mounted, so it's tricky, but you can do it. Grab your bolt, place it in there, and make sure you keep holding on to it so it doesn't fall or the angle of your handlebars moves like mine have, but just fix them if they do. Now grab your spring, put that around the bolt. Keep mine right there. Get the other side of the pressure piece here, and you'll see there's a little knob on it. Make sure that goes into the hole. All right, now that it's up, grab your 5mm hex key, and this is the tricky part, because if you release pressure with your hand, it's gonna come out. So you've got to hold it tight with your hand while you tighten this bolt. Okay, now that we've fixed the angle of the handlebars, you're gonna notice that your handlebar rotation is a little too far back. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our 4mm hex, loosen these 4 bolts just slightly, and rotate our handlebars forward. You don't have to take them off all the way, just loosen them up a little bit. Spin them forward. You're probably gonna make that line almost disappear. But again, I am pretty tall, so if you're shorter than 6'4", you might not have to do it that much. Okay, handlebars are now at a good angle of rotation. So now that my handlebars are where I like them, next I'm going to loosen these bolts here to rotate my brakes. So make sure you grab your 4mm hex key, and then you can loosen these bolts just slightly. And once those bolts are loosened, you'll be able to rotate the angle of your brakes. Tighten those back up. Now we're going to rotate the angle of the brake on the right side. You'll notice that this red button connection piece is going to make it so you can't rotate the brake down. So we're going to use our 3mm hex key, loosen the bolt that's just right down here, and then you'll be able to rotate this piece here. This is your throttle. Also, it has this red button on it, and what that does is that's a kill switch for your motor. So if you're ever having problems and you're turning your throttle, everything looks fine, but you're just not moving, click the red button. So we're gonna rotate it to about here and then tighten it back down. Now that we've done that, we can get our 4mm hex key, loosen this bolt on the brakes, and we can rotate the right brake. Now that we've rotated the brake to where we want it to go, we can tighten up these bolts again. So now that we've made the adjustments in the handlebars and brakes, you can use the 3mm hex key to adjust the rotation of your display. Mine's good right here, so I'm not gonna do that, but just like we put the display on, use that 3mm hex key, go into this bottom bolt, loosen it just a little bit, and then you can rotate that. So what we're gonna do is turn on the display by holding the far right button down. Make sure it works. And it's on 0 right now, so we just need to switch it up to 1. Now the throttle's not working. Remember what I said, this red button is the kill switch, so just click that, throttle's working. Last thing I like to test is make sure the light works by holding down the plus. you can see the light works fine. On the display, the little light symbol will illuminate as well when the light is on. Now that we're done building the Grizzly and doing all of the adjustments on the handlebars, the brakes, and the display, what we're going to do is go into air pressure. A good default air pressure for the tires is 20 psi. Now that is what we put it at when we send these to you. It's a good place to start, but you can always do more or less depending on your ride, whether it's on hard flat ground or soft sand, beach sand, or just deep sand in the mountains. You can change the air pressure how you would need it with an air compressor or a tire pump. With the front fork, we're going to tell you to use a shock pump with a Schrader valve connector that you can connect to the left side of the front fork where it says air. What you want to do as a good starting point, kind of like a default air pressure, is put the front fork at 150. Now you can open up the front fork suspension and you can lock it with this piece here on the right side of the fork. Now that we're all set with air pressure, you're ready to ride. Last thing I suggest is to check all of the bolts on the handlebars and brakes and everything that you loosened. Make sure they're good and tight. Same thing with the 2 bolts on the front fork where the tire is connecting. Make sure those are tight. Check your brakes just to make sure these are working. And listen for any rubbing in your rotors. Once you've done that, you're good to go. If you have any questions, you can always talk to us on our social media platforms. Email us at info@bakcou.com. Or you can follow our YouTube, subscribe to it, and you can see tutorial videos, how-to videos, and new product videos on anything and everything we have here at Bakcou. Thanks for watching and be safe.